Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth. They gathered their armies to make war against the one seated on the horse. But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet. For he has carried out signs which deceived the people into receiving the mark of the beast and worshipping its image. Therefore these two were thrown alive into the lake of fire. Then I saw an angel holding a great chain. He seized the dragon, who is called Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He was thrown into the bottomless pit, and it was sealed over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer, until the 1,000 years were ended. Then I saw the souls of those who had been killed for the testimony of Christ, and for the word of God. And I saw those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark. They rose to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not rise until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who shares in the first resurrection. The second death will have no power over them. They will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him for 1,000 years. When the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison. He will come out to deceive the nations that are at the ends of the earth. He will gather them for the final assault, and their numbers will be as the sand of the sea. They marched across the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them, and the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire, where the beast and the false prophet were, and there they will be tormented forever. Then, behold, a great white throne, and the one who was upon it made the earth and the sky vanish from his presence. He threw death and Hades into the lake of fire, and anyone whose name was not found in the book of life, he too was thrown into the lake of fire. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the old had passed away. I saw the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God, and a loud voice called from the throne and said, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor pain, for all former things have passed away. And behold, I am making all things new. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage. I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly and the faithless, as for murderers and sorcerers, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death.
Hope everyone's having a great Taco Tuesday. We'll jump into stuff. Pinned to the top of this Spaces is this Spaces. So if you're in the room, if you would mind clicking on that and sharing it, bookmarking it, reposting it, quote post, and then comment under it. Let's get the algos moving. Little Owen, and we'll jump into stuff.
Two great lights, ruling the
It's July 30th. It's National Whistleblower Day. It's Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I know there's always crazy stuff happening in the world and world news, and I think a lot of it is meant to um, get people depressed, make people feel hopeless, and bring people down because they got to promote the policies, they got to promote the politicians. And so, human emotion is a very important commodity for these folks, and putting us into a roller coaster of emotion, whether it's fear, excitement, rage, outrage. It's interesting to keep track of some of that. Just get a notebook out when you notice everybody freaking out about something. Just write down the emotional reaction of the people. And these are generalizations and observations, but I think it helps keep yourself not at a total distance, because obviously we're in it. We have our social media accounts, we have friends that text message us or email us or call us or whatever. And so there's always conversations, or at least in my life, that's just how it is for me. I have friends, family, and people who are interested in things happening in the world, and they like talking about it with me. So even though, I'm not always behind the mic with it, I'm always discussing it or thinking about it. So putting it down on a notebook or something is very helpful for me. I've been using the notepad on my phone to jot down notes. Just a little tip and it gets it off your chest. If it's bothering you, but you got to do something else, writing it down, at least for me mentally, it just allows me to move on and do what I got to do, because otherwise my brain is going to be occupied with the thoughts of and questions and things. And, sometimes in the background that is always going on. But today, I wanted to just discuss a little bit about a tweet that Elon Musk sent. And I forgot that I was live on video too. Yeah, so if you're on Rumble, YouTube, I'm testing out dual streaming on X. Obviously on X, it's just audio, and it's actually kind of clunky, but for the sake of doing this, since I'm doing it anyway, I wanted to give it a go and try it on video streaming live as well. I did it before, but it kind of crashed the whole system, so I backed off of it. And so anyway, that's just some technical stuff going on. So what I wanted to discuss was this morning, or was it yesterday? I guess it was earlier today. Actually, first off, yesterday. This is just a warning to anybody using X, and I know a lot of people are shadow banned, and it was funny because I did those posts maybe a couple weeks ago when I first flipped over, right before I flipped over to the Doginal Dog PFP for the Twitter X account. I asked, or I told everybody there were people that were more shadow banned than I was, because I feel pretty shadow banned on X and Twitter and stuff. I've had this account since 2013 or something, and it's been a grind, And I didn't always use it. I think I got the account and I didn't post anything for years at a time. But in any case, here's something. I know this is some kind of shadow banning going on, and I think I understand the reason why they would do this. But basically, Jason P. Lowry, who, if you have been tracking with some of the topics I've been talking about, I've been discussing Jason Lowry for a few months, maybe a year, ever since his book came out. I didn't know about it right away. There were some people talking about it back then, early, but he wrote a book called Softwar, and the subtitle being A Novel Theory on Power Projection and the National Strategic Significance of Bitcoin. And he laid out basically the thesis of why America, or somebody should use Bitcoin as a cyber defense weapon, like a nation state cyber defense weapon. And of course, it sounded kind of crazy, but again, I noticed the book got taken off the shelf. His X account went dark. He said some cryptic things on Twitter X. He's like, yeah, I just got to shut it down or quiet down for a while. And so I know his account is being watched. So he posted something yesterday, and here's what he said. The emergent effect of warfare is decentralized jurisdiction. the decentralized jurisdiction over cyberspace. Humanity must adopt a cyber warfare protocol. The first country who recognizes this protocol will become a cyber superpower. Spoiler, it's hiding in plain sight, disguised as a monetary protocol. So, cryptic way to say Bitcoin is that protocol, the cyber superpower weapon. And I retweeted it. I forgot what I said because I even deleted it because I retweeted this tweet. Now, Jason deleted this tweet right away, or post, I guess. I'm still not used to saying post instead of tweet. But so he deleted it, and that just tanked my repost. And I think there was like 130 impressions, which is pretty low for this account. There were periods of time when it was kind of like that with anything I posted, but 130 impressions is like super low. So, and then I posted a response to that post. I forget the exact reason. Oh, I left the screenshot. I said, oh yeah, here's what he posted in case anybody missed it. And that got like 70 impressions or something. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this post down. I'm going to delete it. I get maybe that's not the most popular thing to do, but it's just, I see it. I'll talk about it in spaces. Just let everybody know if you're following this account or if you're trying to reshare stuff or do something. And he's probably got somebody telling him like, okay, that's fine. Or no, you can't post that. He, has to delete it or whatever. So anybody who's discussing it or, even now, I'm sure this is not good for me. And I'm talking about this, but anyway, the idea, it's pretty crazy to see RFK Jr. talk about it at the Bitcoin conference and Trump kind of alluding to it in one respect or another. But that's not really what this is about. I wanted to bring it up because part of the book, the Softwar book, he talks about how there's something called power projection. And with current systems of software, the current setup of software, there is an imbalance with people who are behind the scenes, who operate and run that software. They have unbalanced power over the people who use that software. And we know that to be true just based on experience, based on all the stuff that's come out with social media over the last decade and everything else. So this is not something that's crazy or outlandish, but he lays it out in a way that makes sense. You kind of read it and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. There's this idea of power projection. There's different kinds of warfare. There is, obviously, we've moved a lot more into a psychological warfare state, more noticeable or more tangible and more, I don't know. It is what it is now. It's the default way, but there are still moments when kinetic power is displayed as a mechanism for governance or for geopolitics, for saber rattling, for whatever, for any kind of agenda going on at national levels, global levels, institutional levels. And we talk about the spiritual level and the fact that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We bring it up often because if you don't understand that perspective, you tend to get caught up into the different groups that are being stoked to pin against one another in this war that's literally playing out. So, I talk about this because power projection, there's different kinds of power, one of them being kinetic power. And we saw, again, last weekend with allegedly the citizens or people of Israel getting hit by a missile. And then today, Beirut being hit. And in my opinion, this sort of back and forth, hitting each other with rockets and all that kind of stuff is going to keep going on for a while until some kind of new technology that is beyond it either threatens or is used. And I tend to think that laser weaponry is something that can be, they use it already with the Iron Dome type of stuff. But truly a sort of a space laser type of thing that comes down from the sky. It sounds kind of crazy, but I think they can unleash that and mimic a type of God's judgment or sentiment of God's judgment on Earth here, at least with the general populace. So I bring it up also because with Jason Lowery's book, Softwar, he talks about neo-God kings. He talks about these software people, these folks that we have come to know as these billionaire tech sort of darlings, Elon Musk being one of those people. He calls them neo-God kings because of their unbalanced power over society. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that Elon Musk is a neo-God king in the way Jason P. Lowery outlines in his book. And I think Elon's one of the few, maybe Zuck's another one, who recognizes that you can't, you kind of have to cater to the people or the masses to maintain a level of, I don't know, influence over the masses in a sense. So it's interesting to watch Elon pick up the mantle of free speech and constitutionalism and all that, and push this platform X to represent those things, or at least have the foundation of those things, because people are attracted to that, especially right now when there's a vacuum, and all the social media platforms that were built in the last decade and a half became, I don't know, just instruments of instruments of control, propaganda, openly and tangibly. So, you know, some kind of return, and this is an ebb and flow. Again, it's hard to step out of it and look at it from a 1,000-foot view type of perspective. And I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It's an opportunity to step out and just speak your mind and not feel like you're going to be totally silenced, even though there's still shadow banning and such going on places like X. But it's a good springboard into the topic of Elon and how he's operating right now. And I didn't want to tag him. I know he probably has seen my account, probably doesn't like me, but I don't blame him. So the people of Venezuela have had enough of this clown. That's what Elon tweeted yesterday. He was reposting a Mario Naufal post about Venezuela and all the craziness going on with the people pushing back against Maduro. And it's interesting. Again, Elon having this ability to post something on social media and have a sort of societal influence. He is kind of doing the fifth generation war against Maduro and Venezuela. And I'm not even taking sides with Maduro. I'm just saying this is sort of the way the warfare works now, is you can post something on the internet and it is a narrative that is being pushed out there, and it creates support, mass support or pushback. And it's this interesting game that we're all caught up in. And even more regarding this whole situation, Visegrad, I'm probably saying that wrong, Visegrad 24, who does, I think they say curating news, politics, and current affairs. They have 1 million followers on X, and they tweeted out, breaking: Maduro calls Elon Musk his arch enemy and says Elon wants to come to Venezuela with an army and his space rockets and invade it. Can you confirm or deny it, Elon Musk, ? And there's a video of Maduro holding up a phone. I can't verify if this is legit or real. It says elections 2024, so I'm assuming it's current. Here's a question. This is just a thing as a tech person for me. How come footage from like South America and sometimes Africa and stuff, how come it always looks like VHS? When we get it here, like on X, it always looks like it's ripped off of a VHS cassette tape. Does anybody remember VHS? I'm probably older than some people out there, but yeah, I don't know why, but it always looks low quality and not great. But anyway, so Elon responded to this, and he said, does he have space lasers? Because I do. And part of me is like, it's Elon being Elon. He's being tongue-in-cheek. He's got SpaceX, and he's got all this stuff. So he can say that, and he's just, he's just being Elon. He's having fun. But also, he does have, or he is at least the face of a company that's trying to go to Mars, the face of the company that runs a satellite internet service. So he is sort of a, I don't know, space baron, if you want to call it that, or the sky, the firmament baron or something. He's like taking claim of the real estate up there, and I know that's been a ongoing battle between nation states and stuff since we can allegedly go up there and do some things or put some things up there. But again, it's interesting that this is a situation. It's not just a corporation or a nation; it's an individual. And of course, there are groups behind this individual. That's, again, sort of the point about the layers to this and the shadow figures that we will never know. And that's why part of arguing about who's this or who's that, it's interesting and important to learn, especially early on. If you've come down the rabbit trail for the first time, you got to get a feel for the landscape, and you have to learn some of the names and groups and individuals and what they're about and what documents they've published, and you get into all that, and I understand that. But at a certain point, you realize that, like, oh, this is all This is if the spiritual thesis is correct, that this is all spiritual warfare. These people are being led astray by something beyond just Bill Gates or just beyond, the Vatican or something. These are all organizations, institutions, and beyond that are entities, spiritual entities, controlling it. And then beyond even that is God's sovereignty, sort of allowing it all to happen. So, having that perspective on things, at least for me, it's helped not get boggled down too much and not lose hope about stuff, because you get caught up in these whirlwinds of, I don't know, fear that gets pushed out there, and people can really lose hope. And that's really a dangerous spot, because then people can come in, preach hope that's not, Jesus Christ, and then they're putting their faith in something or somebody else. And that's kind of the point of a lot of politics and sort of the technocracy that we've been building. So, space lasers, the topic of space lasers, it interests me, because I've seen anime since I was a kid, lots of space stuff. I think all of us were indoctrinated with Star Wars as youngins. It's a thing that interests our generation in ways that prior generations just didn't have, with all the science fiction and propaganda weaved within it. So I've done research into this topic before, and in fact, it's just funny that certain topics just keep popping back up that I really did deep dives on in the past. And there's a book that I wrote. It was called The Cosmic Endgame: Secret Civilizations, Space Weapons, and the Antichrist War Machine. It was never published. And it was a book that I put together in 2014, and I really want to work on it and finish it and publish it. And there's probably a lot that I can add to it and do some things. And maybe we'll do sort of a communal effort, focus group type thing with this too, because the communal research that can take place to put this together, it would be pretty awesome, especially now. Obviously doing research about this stuff in 2013, 2012, 2013, when I was writing it, very different with the information that's become public now in 2024. So a lot to update, but in the book, I did discover certain documents and got into some of it, quoted some of it. One of them is a document that was titled, let me try to find it here. Oh man. It's bad when you write something and then you don't remember ever writing it. It's like you read back and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Did I write that really? Those words? Okay, so there is a document, I think it was from the Department of Defense or the Air Force. Was it the Air Force? Oh, it was the Air Force. Okay, so it was the Air Force talking about, the U.S. Air Force Transformation Flight Plan from 2003. 2003. So this is a while ago. And they talked about the rods of God, these hypervelocity rod bundles, but those aren't lasers. Those are like actual rods that would get dropped from a very high altitude and then go straight in, create a tunnel or something. Or, just a little portal to Hades. It's a portal maker to Hades. So they got that ready to go up there, allegedly. But let me find this quote here. So I said that with specific projects with a brief description of their purpose are given in a chart, and dictating that such projects are probably well underway. This is, again, written 10 years ago. Some of the more profound projects and their descriptions include, and then I quote the document, Evolutionary Air and Space Global Laser Engagement, EAGLE, airship relay mirrors will significantly extend the range of both the airborne laser and ground-based laser by using airborne, terrestrial, or space-based lasers in conjunction with space-based relay mirrors to project different lasers, laser powers and frequencies to achieve a broad range of effect from illumination to destruction. So they even say that they have the capability, or at least they're planning to build this capability with EAGLE lasers, or this mirror system with lasers that can illuminate something or destroy it. You also have the Global Hawk. And again, some of this is probably already deployed. The laser weapons, if you remember 9/11, of course everyone remembers it, but shortly thereafter, Donald Rumsfeld, who's the same guy who said that $2.3 trillion went missing the day before the towers went knocking down, he was confronted about laser weapons by a reporter. And it's a really famous clip. You can probably, I don't know if you can find it that easily now. They probably suppressed the clip, but we've played it on the show multiple times over the years. And I think if you go to the 9/11 episode on Canary Cry Radio, we put together a piece, and we might have quoted it there. But in any case, the Donald Rumsfeld gets asked by a reporter about laser weapons, and he basically says, yeah, they kind of exist, but then we haven't really deployed it. We got to test it, and he kind of gave the runaround. And that was also the press conference where Donald Rumsfeld had his hand wrapped. It was like a weird hand cast wrap or something. Weird. Politics has always been weird, folks. Oh, by the way, weird, right? Now everyone's triggered by the word weird because the mainstream media decided that J.D. Vance is, signaling in the mainstream will be weird, the word weird. I hate how they commoditize words. That is the worst thing ever. Let's see. Who's requesting? Oh, there we go. We've read the documents. What's up? What's up, buddy? Hop up here. I thought I accepted. Is that working? Oh, there we go. Yeah. We've read the documents. How's it going? Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, yeah. Okay. True anomaly dot space. Let's check this out. Yeah, I don't doubt. I mean, people know about Starlink, but most people don't talk about Starshield. He actually has an internet system that's supposed to be for military use, already out there. That's part of what he has. True anomaly. Let's check this out. Okay, here we go. I'm at trueanomaly.space. And it says here, defining the next generation of space security. The Yeah, I see that. Wow. Wow. So Mission X. X marks the future of space security. Wow, man, he's got the X branding just it's the center of everything, apparently. Man, that is crazy. Okay, so I'm taking a look here. Mission X demonstrating the future of space security. Mission X includes a series of flight tests in rapid succession to demonstrate agile spacecraft and flight software iteration. Flight 1 in March marked a significant milestone as the first Jackal AOV reached orbit. Flight 2 is planned within the next 12 months with the goal for a Jackal to image other spacecraft while maneuvering in proximity. Interesting. So they kind of move around and get into position and then they fire away. Huh? That is crazy. Well, I'm reading this right here. The Space Security Challenge, new technology for the new space race. Space technology is the foundation of the international rules-based order. Okay, all right. I guess they're just laying it out there. Space technology is the foundation of the international rules-based order. Yeah, I guess laser borders from space is the next level of walls. Trump was talking about the Iron Dome in America, so maybe that's what this is too. Part of the partnership of next level walls. You just got Iron domes everywhere, which is interesting because I had an article that I wanted to share, and it, let's see, I don't have the I can't read it because it's behind a paywall, but the headline from Popular Mechanics is Israel's new $1.2 billion laser will be nearly unstoppable and America wants one too. It's like, yay, America wants one. And I actually have the interesting engineering that basically mirrored the same story. 4.3-mile U.S. may pursue potent laser weapon to fry enemy drones' missiles. So yeah, a lot of laser talk, a lot of laser talk. So it's interesting that Elon is starting to flex his laser, I guess, weapon. I mean, is that crazy that we have a guy that's posting stuff on social media? You can't tell if he's trolling or whatever. But really, he has, I guess, access, or he's, you know, the face of some space satellite laser arsenal or something. I mean, what is going on? We've read the documents, so we know, right? Oh boy. Yeah. 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 Do you think, you know, the book of Daniel talks about the Antichrist, or the king of the north in Daniel 11? It talks about the he has gets help from the god of fortresses. Oh, can you not hear me? Oh, I'm muted. I'm muted on Spaces. Sorry. Live stream people can hear me, and then Spaces nobody can hear me. Sorry. I was saying Do you think the God of Fortresses in the book of Daniel that assists the Antichrist or the man of sin, do you think that's AI? Because I've had this speculation for a while, and look, I don't know for sure, but it's the more things reveal itself, it just seems like this God that his fathers knew not. It's just an interesting passage where it discusses some of that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Right. Um, they probably have so much stuff that we don't know. When I went down the rabbit trail of the secret space program and the breakaway civilization, this was about 10 years ago. They did a big conference. Catherine Austin Fitz is up on stage talking about how there's billions of dollars of craft that people are seeing, but nobody's really hearing about or know about. And yeah, I think they've got all kinds of crazy stuff stationed all over the place. And whether and it's probably beyond. This is where things get weird. Obviously, things get strange. It's probably beyond humans in a sense, and this is when we step into not just principalities and powers, but how those principalities and powers perhaps manifest physically on Earth, because we know angelic or sort of divine entities can appear in the flesh. So, yeah, I think there's stuff built already, and I mean it's wild. The whole concept is wild, and I almost think a lot of even the discussion of flat Earth that came in 10 years ago was part and part to distract from all this stuff being built. I think they probably went pretty hard building this stuff, this infrastructure, the last decade, and they didn't need a bunch of people calling it out necessarily. So, and they did a good job because a lot of people were distracted with the conversation or, totally missing the whole bigger picture of what's actually being built around us. Not even suggesting the shape of the universe or whatever, the shape of the cosmos, just in the general truth that they were building stuff, and it's kind of too late. They're rolling out the public stuff now. So the fact that they're doing that means they probably have something beyond it in place, because now they're always creating that net, right? They're always a few years ahead. So I would assume that they have some pretty impressive technologies inspired by things or people, intelligences from other realms. And yeah, it's just the world we live in. And that's why Bible prophecy is probably so colorful. People say it's like analogy and metaphor and stuff, and I always bring it up, but I think there's a reason. Things get very strange, and the only way to really even relate to it in any kind of literature or ancient literature goes back to mythology, and we're living in that time. We're living in that days of Noah again. So very fascinating. I do have I found a document. I just want to mention it because we know this stuff's been building for decades. And the Government Accountability Office published a document, or this is from March 16th of 1982. 1982. And here are the highlights. You can get the full report, I guess, but I just have the highlights here straight from the gao.gov. And it says Gao presented an overview of the Department of Defense's space-based laser program. Remember, this was the Reagan era. Space lasers are one of several laser concepts that may someday serve as useful military weapons. And clearly, we they have it now. They have the capabilities now, and it's a military weapon, and it's a surveillance apparatus. And I was looking at that Realm Alliance thing, and they were saying, let's see, a common operating picture integrating all of your site security systems. Realm makes all your security systems accessible from a single interface. It's like, yeah, okay, let's create that single point of failure and single point of control. Good way to keep an eye on all the stuff going on. And then let's see, there was another. Oh, here. This one was from express.co.uk from yesterday. Again, I think certain words, certain topics, when it bombards a little bit of the ragtag, and then some of your big individuals like Elon starts talking about things, I tend to notice it. But express.co.uk published yesterday, Star Wars laser weapons becoming a reality as British Army tests latest tech. So the British Army is testing laser weapons. Let's see. The kind of laser weapons seen in Star Wars and Star Trek are fast becoming a reality and may, quote, change the equation when it comes to taking out some enemy targets, an expert has said. Development of lasers as weapons has continued for years, with the technology being adopted by countries including the UK. The Ministry of Defense announced earlier this month that a speed of light laser... I'm sorry. I may be speaking out of naivety. Are there not speed of light lasers? Is there not? I'm sorry. I'm just confused. I didn't know that there were lasers that weren't speed of light. I'm kind of confused about that. Anyway, the speed of light laser weapon was successfully fired for the first time on a British Army combat vehicle at Defence Science and Technology Laboratory Range in Porton-Down, Wiltshire. So, yeah, they're talking about Star Wars, Star Trek type of lasers, and now the UK is getting it. Elon's got, and all of a sudden, everyone's coming out saying they got lasers. Is that what's going to happen here? Because I think a lot of this tension in the rockets and Israel and Gaza and Beirut in the Middle East, when somebody uses a true space-based laser weapon to shut things down, I think that's when things really shift geopolitically. We go more into technocratic sort of neo God King state, where whoever controls the lasers or the biggest lasers is the guy on the top of the hill or whatever. So I don't know. It's just a lot of wild stuff going on. Any thoughts? We've read the documents. Sure. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, they just changed the name. Goes underground. Yep. So easy. Mm-hmm. Why do they always bring why do they always bring theosophists in? That's what I want to know. They never bring in, if they were really truly trying to get a more full view or maybe different views, they'd bring in more people. But no, it's always the one saying Maitreya's coming back, or It's there seems to be a pattern. Iran Contra. I don't remember. Yeah, it was like George Schultz, Caspar Weinberger, Ed Meese, Oliver North. Okay. Mm. Yeah. Amen, man. 100%. Thank you. And thank you for all you do, all the research you do and you share. It's very valuable stuff. So go follow We've Read the Documents if you haven't, and turn on his notifications and help him out. And yeah, man, anytime you want to hop up, feel free to come in. I try to do this every Tuesday. So if you can join us anytime, let us know and just hop on. God bless. All right. Okay. As I try to absorb that very important information that was being dropped there, I was looking for the Outer Space Treaty. And for some reason, somebody had said that it expired, but apparently it doesn't really expire. They did have maybe an option to reinstate it or something, and I forget the exact thing there. But 1967 Outer Space Treaty basically saying that, hey, we're not going to weaponize space or whatever. But we know that they've gotten around that. A lot of the language that was written in the 60s was like, no nuclear weapons in space, no nuclear weapons. So, they're like, good, because we're going to build lasers, and kinetic bombardment weapons and stuff. We don't have any nukes. We follow the treaty. There's no nukes. No, this is for security. We're building the lasers for security purposes. Yeah, so let me just jump a little bit into fire from heaven, the biblical concept of fire from heaven. And another point to this, and this is one that, I'm just being honest with what I'm seeing here, and it doesn't excite me to say this, but the whole Bitcoin is a national strategic, creating a stockpile, it's a national security concern, the Jason P. Lowry concept. Jason P. Lowry's MIT, he's Space Force. So he's got that space connection there too. And I think what we're going to see, and I guess it's a concern, but it's more like this is probably what we're going to see if, unless the Lord returns, is these laser type of jurisdictions that basically will be able to contain a lot of your crypto movement. And that You know, that's starting to sound pretty Mark of the Beastie if you can't really move your Bitcoin between jurisdictions or physically cross borders with your crypto without, triggering the laser that lets them or whoever know that you got crypto or whatever, and then either pay the fee or whatnot to be able to move around. There is a tie in with the cyberspace element and this outer space infrastructure element. And I don't know that it's super clear to everybody right now, and it's not super clear to me. I know some people have gone down the rabbit trail, and I'm sure they have research that can shed some more light on the specifics of the stuff being built. But to me, it all sort of is moving towards this time when God like judgment or Old Testament style or just biblical style judgment, quote unquote, can be displayed in a sense. So the first time we really hear about fire from heaven is actually in Genesis 19. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. And verse 24, then the Lord rained down sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he destroyed these cities and the entire plain, including all the inhabitants of the cities and everything that grew on the ground. Now, what I find very fascinating about Elon saying he's got lasers and Elon pushing back against the woke mind virus is that we know what Sodom and Gomorrah represented. And interestingly enough, if you really dig into some of these stories there, there were angel of the Lord was hanging out, with Abraham and walking around. So he was definitely in a bodily form. And when they went to Sodom and Gomorrah, the people there, some of the folks there, I think this was like the first LGBTQ plus hangout, Sodom and Gomorrah, and they saw the angels. They saw that the angels were very good looking, and they wanted a piece of them, So, and of course, culturally in the modern era, people call out like, oh, and then they sold the daughters instead of the angels, and that kind of thing. But in effect, the angels had bodies in a sense. That's the big point with the Sodom and Gomorrah and what they were doing, right? This sin, evil stuff that was going on at Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, God rained sulfur and fire down, it says, out of the heavens and judges. And it just makes me feel a little uncomfortable when Elon's like, I'm going to destroy the woke mind virus. I have laser weapons. Like, what are you going to do, bro? Are you going to shoot laser down on the Olympics or something and like destroy Paris, France? And so all the the trans folk and I don't know, whatever, doing the Last Supper mocking are destroyed and turned into pillars of salt. And then what? Are we all going to cheer? Are we going to be like, yeah, Elon destroyed the woke mind virus? Like, what in the world? I mean, I'm just painting these wild scenarios, but I'm just pointing out or referencing the commonalities and potentialities here. I'm not saying Elon is going to do that or he's part of any of this. Although, again, I always say that we live cyclical events that align with biblical prophecy because I think God's word really lays out pretty much every human conflict in one way or another, and it just repeats at different levels, and ultimately there will be, a final fulfillment of some of these things. But I think God laid out a certain archetype of events, and we live it out, and we seem to be at an iteration that is quite different from at least most of recorded human history or known recorded human history, where we have this technology that allows for a dude to tweet out or post, I got lasers. And then, you dig in and he's got lasers. He's got lasers companies that can, do security and stuff. So, yeah, just pointing out some of the weird stuff that aligns with the concept of fire from heaven with lasers from space and the cultural, geopolitical, all these sentiments that surround an individual like Elon Musk and these passages. And then here's the other thing. Now, this is when it would get really weird, right? And this is the kind of thing where, this is the realm of speculation. So, and it's biblical, and I just want to be upfront with that. I know we're not necessarily supposed to be speculating and wasting our time doing some of that. This is just for the sake of conversation and really to look at some of the scriptures and what it talks about regarding fire from heaven. And starting at Leviticus 9, verse 24. This is when Moses and Aaron go into the tent of meeting, and then they come out and they bless the people. And it says here, the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat portions of the altar. Now, see, it's interesting because some of these translations have fire from heaven. But what I find fascinating is there's a distinction with some of this where the fire comes out of God himself. And there's a lot of Old Testament references to God being sort of a fiery figure, a bright, fiery figure, appearing to people, pillar of clouds and all this kind of stuff that glows at night. So there's a physical aspect to this. And my question is simply, do we have the technology to mimic some of this now? And I would argue probably got some stuff. And the idea of consuming a sacrifice is pretty common too. It's mentioned in 1 Kings 18, starting in verse 38. It talks about the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the sacrifice. And I'll come back to Elijah in a second here. But let's see what else is there. Oh, there's 1 Chronicles 12, King David, his burnt offering was affirmed by God when fire came down from heaven. Same thing with 2 Chronicles 7, 1 through 3. Solomon finishes praying. Fire comes down from heaven, consumes his burnt offering. So when we go to Revelation 13 and we read about the second beast that performs great signs, even cause fire from heaven to come down to earth in the presence of people, it makes me wonder. We have all this talk about the third temple and restarting sacrifices and stuff. If you can, I don't know, you put an altar out there, you put the cow out there, and then, I don't know, space weapon, a little laser from space just comes down and burns it up, or beam me up, Scotty, or something in the sight of men. It's just something to think about. Can they mimic these types of supernatural things to create religious fervor in the world? Yeah, I think so. I think people that are in high places understand that there's an opportunity like that at play here. And of course, this calling fire down from heaven is in context to so many other things, with the beast getting a mortal head wound and getting healed. And there's a context there. And then there's the mark of the beast part, where the mark of the beast isn't presented by the first beast. It's presented by the second beast, which a lot of people believe is the false prophet, who is, he's more of a prophet type. And some people say sort of a modern scientist type. Who knows? And that fits the bill when it comes to at least Elon Musk, in a sense, a technocrat. And the other time fire from heaven is mentioned in the New Testament, it's in Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 54. When the disciples James and John saw this, some of the blasphemy going on, they asked, "Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to consume them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them, and he and his disciples went on to another village. I find this fascinating, that the followers of Christ, his disciples, understood that under given circumstances, they wield the power to have fire call down from heaven to consume or, take out their enemies or something. Very interesting. And this comes from the Old Testament, of course, Elijah. And 2 Kings, chapter 1, starting in verse 10, Elijah answered the captain, "If I am a man of God, may fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50 men. And fire came down from heaven and consumed the captain and his 50 men. And it goes on here. This is Elijah going up against the prophets of Baal. And he says, if Baal is real, he would show himself now. He would come down and do this burnt sacrifice, or take this sacrifice, and nothing happened. But when Elijah invoked the Lord for judgment, boom, fire comes down and takes out the prophets of Baal, literally, like burns them up. And we know that some folks today are still waiting for Elijah, the second coming of Elijah, really, as part of their end times prophecy. And so it's just fascinating. It's interesting to think that there are ways to mimic this, is all I'm saying. Again, the rabbit trails, just reading these scriptures about fire from heaven now in 2024, when you got people, the nation's talking about lasers, everyone's talking about lasers, and then neo-god kings talking about having lasers and sort of quasi-threatening President Maduro. Not that I'm a fan, but just the fact that he would even do that. Interesting times we live in. Interesting times we live in. So that's kind of all I had really for today. That's all the information I had that I wanted to share with the spaces. How long have we been going here? Let me check the clock. I don't think it's been too long. An hour. Okay. All right. If anybody wants to hop on stage, if you got anything you want to share, contribute to the discussion here, or something else. There's other stuff going on in the world. I'm happy to discuss anything else that's happening that's on your mind. Let's see. Is anybody trying to hop up on stage here? Let me check. Doesn't look like it. Let's see. I haven't posted anything at the top other than the spaces here. See how we got going here. Oh, thank you to Christopher, Blake, Sir Darren, and Thaddeus J for commenting and liking and doing all that stuff. And it helps the algos. Helps the algos here. Let's see. There are a couple other things that I wanted to dig into a little bit. But yeah, this true anomaly thing is very fascinating. Mission X. I don't look too deep into it here, but let's take a peek at this. Yeah, Mission X, SpaceX, X Spaces. So he's got the mirror thing going on with X Spaces as well. It's understood that this is an agenda going on. RPO rendezvous. Oh, we got a couple people requested here. Let me get you guys up. JC and Davey Frost. How's it going, guys? How's your Tuesday? You guys get up here. There's JC. And let's see. There's Davey. All right. The bottom left, there's a little microphone. You can unmute your mic. What's up, Davey? Good, brother. How you doing? Yeah, so Maduro apparently, allegedly, said that he called Elon Musk an arch enemy and said that Elon wants to come to Venezuela with all his army and his space rockets and invade it. And then Elon responded to the news outlet tweeting that and said, "Does he have space lasers? Because I do." Yeah. So yeah. They do. They do. I think, to be honest with you, having this community, doing these shows, they're really helpful for me, just being able to get it off my chest in a sense. And that's why I was mentioning at the beginning, you probably missed it because you weren't here yet, but I was talking about how we should all have notebooks out or have your notepad in your phone or something like that. Just take notes on things you notice. And in the context of what I was discussing, it was, everyone freaked out about the Olympics and the opening ceremony and stuff, and just record some of the emotions people are showing. And over time, you can start analyzing how the social engineers, the fifth generation warfare, how it operates with the narrative and how people's emotions get carried in all kinds of directions: anger, happiness, joy, sadness. It's a roller coaster, but if you start documenting it, you can start seeing it and then separate yourself from it and being like, okay, I'm observing this. And as I said earlier, you can't completely separate yourself from it. You're on social media, you're doing these things. So it's impossible to totally separate unless you're totally out in the mountains and you're not connected to the internet, which, there's time for that. But it's a way to just like get it all off your chest and then, find people in your life that support you in more ways than just your crazy thoughts, but yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, see, I think this is you bring up a very important point, and for a long time, I had the same thing. Where am I going to find a church where I can feel comfortable about bringing up Genesis 6 on the first conversation with the pastor or something, right? So, and I was looking for that, and I realized I'm probably not going to find it. Things have changed a little bit. People like Dr. Michael Heiser have changed that with his book Unseen Realm. A lot of people are more up to speed on that stuff, but in general, people aren't aware of that stuff or like talking about it. My suggestion, and I've always talked about this, and this has been kind of cool for me to experience as well. You have to that aside for a moment, but then you can be that person to your peers and the people you meet in your community to start discussing those things, not in like get in people's faces, but I think especially if you're around a bunch of Trump supporters, they'll bring up topics that will allow you to bring up certain things that are a little bit more deeper down the rabbit trail. So you can be that person in your community rather than you do feel lonely sometimes, but then you realize other people will follow along and be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and then you got somebody that connects with you on that level, and that's kind of how it works, right? This whole thing works in that way. The personal relationships that get built. That's the best way to get people to understand certain levels of things going on. And not that we're so smart and we got it all figured out, but at the very least, I feel like people like us, people in this community, have been doing it enough to where we have a general template of how to approach things so that we're not overwhelmed, so that we're not feeling like things are hopeless. And there's, as a believer, there's this unshakable faith and this really, really, I don't know, grounded faith that things are going to be okay, that God is in control, and things are going to work out. It'll be fine. There's going to be ultimate judgment. And so all the injustices, we don't have to try to get in there and fight every battle. And people think that we're passive for that, but I don't think we're called to necessarily win every cultural battle. So it's tough. But yeah, I think going into a church where you are completely disconnected from those topics at the very beginning is a way to start sharing those things and building those relationships with people and having those deeper conversations. So, it's an opportunity.
An infinite degree, right? And we just get trapped. And that's what was happening to me. And that's kind of what helped finding this community. It made me realize, like, okay, so I am seeing some of these things and I'm not crazy, but now it's at the point to where like I have to find a different community that's going to give me a different sense of connection. It's not that same, so I kind of have to step away. And here's another conclusion that I've come to recently. It's what is knowledge? Like what knowledge do we actually personally have outside of our own personal experience,
Yeah.
right? Like we can think that we know I mean, think about it in these terms. How many different interpretations of the Bible are there? We all claim to believe in the same book, but how many different denominations are there?
Right.
And how
Yeah.
many places can you go into and they will say, oh, because you interpret the Bible in this way, that means you're a heretic. It's like, well,
Yep.
hold on, I'm just trying to have a discussion here, and you're telling me I'm wrong or going to hell because I see it this way. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So what it really comes down to, what do you know versus what you believe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have any of us seen God in the flesh with our very eyes? No. So we don't have knowledge of him. We have a belief as far as I'm concerned. So a lot of times we attach this, or not attach, but I would say we kind of conflate knowledge and belief, and it gives us this sense of arrogance and pride. And that's kind of where I am right now, and I feel like that's what my my time in this church is teaching me is that I have to step away from thinking that I know things, right? And be a bit more patient and graceful and understanding, and not act like I have some special Gnostic knowledge, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's
Does
the
that make
pride.
sense?
Yep. It's the pride that can really creep in. And that I've had to go through that as well, is to try to,
Hello?
because can you not hear me? Am I still muted? Uh-oh. I'm doing it again. I've muted myself and I forgot to unmute in the spaces. Sorry. Yeah. I was just saying that, yeah, I've personally experienced that myself, going through that. And it's hard sometimes. You have to humble yourself a little bit and be like, okay. And I remember thinking it through too. Like, okay, this is not these views about the Nephilim and all this stuff. It's new because it's new in my life, but we're talking about these ideas that existed thousands of years ago. People thousands of years ago were thinking or writing about these things. And then even before that were the people that really experienced it, right? So we're removed from a lot of that, but also you just kind of look at the world and see that it is some weird times at the same time. So, you know.
Yeah, because what do we really have to go on but something somebody else wrote, right?
Of
Like
course.
we weren't there, so we don't have personal firsthand knowledge, so we have to take it in faith, right? It's even the same way with a lot with science, like with the whole COVID thing, man. Like we saw it on a regular. Trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. Like, don't trust your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many of us have read 1984 and Brave New World and stuff like that? Like, don't trust your eyes, trust us.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think we fall into a dangerous trap a lot of times because we do get so proud and arrogant because, well, yes, the Lord has shown us certain things, but, you know, how much has he not shown us that he's shown other people? So are they allowed to be arrogant too? You know,
Right.
but it all comes down to humbling ourselves. And the way I've been looking at it lately, um, man, just let me wash your feet, you know, like, let me stop thinking about myself for a little while and just, what can I do for you? That kind of
Yeah.
mentality. So
Yep.
anyway, man,
For sure.
if you get me going, I can go on forever.
For
So
sure. No worries. I appreciate you hopping up here and sharing your thoughts. I
Hey,
see.
Davey, do you mind if I chime in real quick?
Yeah, I see
for
JC. What's up,
sure,
buddy?
for sure.
So I feel you, man. I feel you, brother. Like, there's a lot of moments where I've been in church and I felt the same way. Luckily, I'm part of a really good church now. They do bring up the pastor. You know, he from time to time he'll bring up Genesis 6. From time to time he'll speak about the angels and the war in heaven and the Nephilim. It's not a central topic. I feel like he's building up the church towards that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's all about Trump and all of that. And it's like one of those things where you just have to be patient with it. I don't know if there's any one person out there that sees it all, right? That sees every perspective and has like every mystery figured out. There's every day I try to remind, and literally like almost every day I try to remind myself, like, I wonder how many things that I'm unaware of, right? How many blind spots I have, because sometimes you have a hard time being patient with people that are good people, and they're good people and they mean well, but then they're like, Trump is the greatest guy ever, he's gonna bring back America, and like that's literally my whole church. But at the same time, man, they do so much hands-on like work for people, serving people, and
Right.
I witness
Yeah.
it. Like, it's not like, and more than I ever could imagine doing. You know what I mean? More than I ever done myself. So that I'm like, there's a side to them that is way kinder and way better than myself. And I look up to that example. So sometimes we might have higher wisdom, but they might be a little more advanced in practical Christianity, serving people and feeding the poor. And the pastor in particular, like, he goes out himself to like Mexico and different parts of Nigeria to rescue like certain kids that are in trafficking situations. And he risks his position, he gets his hands dirty, and And again, that's something I'm not doing. Uh, and I know he does that stuff in Mexico because I grew up in Mexico. I was born in Mexico. Some of the places that he references, some of the pictures I see, those are like little hometown areas that I know. I'm like, dang, like he really is like in the middle of Mexico, straight like right in the heart of the cartels. So I'm like, man, that guy's like doing it.
Yeah.
Like so it's just patience, simplicity, humbling, right? We
Hmm.
don't do it all, we don't know it all. And like you said a moment earlier, like we weren't 100% beaten over the head with this stuff. We like God revealed it to us. Jesus revealed stuff to us along the way, and you just pray that these people have that revelation as well. But I feel you, brother. Like, oh man, I feel you, dude. Like, there's days in there where I want to speak out loud. I'm gonna be like Trump has that ceiling in one of his towers with the painting of Apollo. Like
Right.
on the 66th floor. Like this guy is not one of us, man. And about 2 maybe 3 weeks ago, I was having a talk with a friend, and I was just riffing, and I was just like, there's something about Trump where I feel like he's like the perfect guy to like bring in something with tech. Like he'll convince everybody. Like his thing will be to convince everybody something with tech, something that your average kind of conservative person would have not gone along with unless
Exactly.
unless
He
Trump is spearheading that.
he's the link, and now he's the crypto bro, right?
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna be, the greatest crypto country in the world.
And Kennedy too. He's doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. Yeah. We talked about Jason P. Lowry at the top of the
Oh,
spaces
did
here.
you?
Yeah. I've been talking about him for a while. He's actually quoted in Age of Deceit 4. So if you're in the focus group, you've known about Jason P. Lowry for a few weeks at the very least. But yeah, I read his book, and I actually have a link to his book. I don't know if I should be doing that. But his book, Softwar, if you go to canarycrynewstalk.com/softwar, you can find his book. There's a link there. You can download it. And yeah, there's the technocracy, the conservative technocracy or techno-conservatism, techno-populism. I made a couple videos on that back in 2017 when I was listening to Trump do his I think it was his inaugural speech, actually. If you go back and listen to some of that, there are moments in there where he talks about AI. I believe he brought up AI and in like a positive light. This is again 2016 or 17, so pretty early. And he's always had the tech thing, but it hasn't been talked about as much. Obviously, with most people in the country being focused on other issues like border and your more sort of typical political issues that gets people fired up. But the Peter Thiel partnership is something that's been around for a while. Whitney Webb has done a pretty good job of documenting all that stuff, and she's been on a few interviews and stuff discussing it. And there's a connection to Israel and Mossad, and it's a whole thing. And it's not just them; it's a lot of intelligence agencies and groups. But when I heard Alex Jones, I think it was the end of last year, maybe earlier this year, and I clipped it. I think I played it on one of the episodes. I think you can go back on Canary Cry News Talk or Canary Cry Radio. You can find it. Basically, Alex Jones came out and said, we have to take the Promethean fire from the liberal, the woke liberal progress. And I'm like, bro, do you not hear yourself? Like this is, and you start looking at the prophecy of the end times with the beast destroying the harlot and sort of the Donnie darkened or Donnie discerned now his thesis about the conservatism raising up the beast. And then, the harlot, they fornicate, make everybody wealthy. But then in the end, the beast destroys the harlot as part of, using the beast as part of God's judgment on the harlot and things of that nature. When you think about that, initially for me, even like the beast system was all the stuff. It was transgender. It was blah, 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 blah. But as time goes on, and maybe it's just a pendulum thing, and the beast is sort of it's a concept. It's a spiritual energy, so to speak, that gets harnessed by whoever is carrying the torch, literally, this Promethean flame. And for the last 10, 15 years, it was the progressive, liberal, woke, whatever, that they had the torch and they got to build and do stuff. and be the pillar of culture. And then now the conservatives are like, no, give me back that Promethean fire, the flame, because, I will harness it. We will harness it and bring about a Christian world or whatever. And it's the same thing as the Crusades, the exact same thing as the Crusades. And I actually brought up how people will think that this is, especially after the Olympic stuff and everybody was triggered about it, it's going to bring about people to step up and have this sort of new crusade and believe it's part of a holy war. And you think about, and actually, who was it? I think it was Cat Turd. Cat Turd here on X, pretty big account. Trump guy. He's like I don't know, he's in Texas or something. And he tweeted out, he's like, this is a holy war now against good versus evil. And it's like, I agree with you, but it's been that for forever. Like, it's been that way for a long time. And it didn't just happen because of the Olympic opening ceremony. So, the quicker we realize and go back to those principled things about how we're in a spiritual war and things like that, I think we can not get so fired up with every rage, bait that's out there. So,
yeah,
Gons,
I just actually had a conversation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's all good. I was going to ask Gons. Well, first of all, I remember Trump also saying that we have to be leaders in 5G and 6G. Also back in the day, right?
Yeah, I had a whole new world. I forget the name of the video. Something about, is 5G Trump's new world order. I think that was the name of the video that I made. Let me find it here. Go ahead.
And I was like,
I think that's
6G. Oh my God. Go ahead, Davey. My bad.
Well, I was just going to say that I think a big thing that a lot of Christians seem to overlook when they get all wrapped up in this is what
Yeah, they wanted to conquer. They wanted somebody to conquer the land for Israel. Yeah. Right, out in the open. Right. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's so. Sorry to cut you off for a second there, but I'm noticing all of the same tropes that the liberal woke left were loud about during their reign. All the conservatives are doing the same thing. They're canceling people. They're complaining about. So we're leaving the. Come on, folks. Dude, it's unreal. I'm like, are you guys? Come on! I thought the whole point was to not. They they did. It's turned into turd or something. I don't know, but yeah, I totally with you on that. Yeah, we've seen this. We've seen it coming too. I remember Chris White talked about the new world order. This was one of the I think he mentioned it in Age of Deceit, the original Age of Deceit back in 2011, where it's sort of this warning about the takeover, the tearing down of the system will be part of the real new world order. The old world order is sort of, everyone's learning about it, and that's kind of what we're seeing being exposed right now. And then it's this new world order that's going to take over. And what's fascinating, you bring up you compared it to Hitler and the Jews and all that stuff, and it can become a little touchy subject. But what if we literally round out every single person who's a pedo in the world and just exterminate them in front of everybody in the world, and that most of the world is going to cheer on that, you know. And not look, it's one of those things. It's a very controversial thing to say. Do they all deserve to die, like some fiery, you know, death? And I don't know. I don't want them around my kids for sure, but I don't know that we need to round them all up and burn him up. I mean, it's just tough morally. It's like I can understand. Exactly. No, Trump gets to decide. Elon gets to decide. They'll put all the pedos. And think about trying to defend that. Think about. Well, that's what I'm saying. Try. Imagine being like, dude, don't kill these people. What are they going to? You're a pedo, and then you're going to be rounded up and put on the island that they're going to, you know, burn a flame. Yeah. Yep. Peace, and then sudden destruction. Peace, and then sudden destruction. Yeah. People always think that's the Antichrist, but I think when you read that passage, it's about the day of the Lord. So I think people aren't necessarily. The destruction that comes with peace is not the Antichrist showing up. It's the Lord and His wrath. But yeah, you know, it's tough. I found these videos. I have is 5G Trump's New World Order? That was 6 years ago. And then Trump tweet pushes American 5G, even 6G. That was 5 years ago. So yeah, and I remember. So, you do a pretty good Trump. You should make a little alt account and just be like a super technocrat Trump. You should do a techno Trump. You should launch a meme coin on Solana and call it like Tech Trump or something. And then you can just go into people's spaces, shill the coin, use that voice, push all the most suppressive, overbearing technology out there. You know, just be really amped Trump about, you know, 8G, 9G, all your data, surveillance. You know, we'll know where you poop. We know what you poop, all that stuff. It'll be great. I think people will pump the token. It's a good way to, it's a good exit strategy. Yeah, there are ways to do it, and it's not necessarily ethical nowadays, but I see MSDS. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh wow, yeah. So it's exactly 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Mm. Whoa. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Were you? Oh yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, it's common thing. Are you are you lucid in these dreams? Are you like aware that you're in a dream? Okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't really interpret that for you, but It sounds like it's some kind of Eye of Sauron, maybe the all-seeing Eye of Providence, or maybe a lot of times they might be able to tap into your fears or something that you're in 2011. Were you like looking into Illuminati stuff or like looking into all that kind of thing? Because maybe whoever or whatever was trying to sort of show what you're afraid of. It's sort of the all-seeing eye type of thing. But oh, it's 2019. Okay, okay. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Interesting. So that was, you said that was like 2013, 2014, something like that? 2013. Okay. Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing some of this. I wish I had more insight to give you, but there's not really much. I don't think there's much that I can say other than I was curious whether you were lucid or not. And I'm the virtual thing is interesting. Have you used VR at all? Okay. Okay. So, but you know sort of the feeling of being in a VR goggles and in that VR space and okay. Yeah, cuz I think well, there was one guy a couple years ago, there was a guy on YouTube who basically said I'm living in the VR headset for a week. Let's see what happens. And he documents everything. He's eating, he's sleeping, everything. And he said he started dreaming in VR. Like literally his dreams are, you got he's in the room, he's got the menu and all that stuff. He woke up and he's still in VR. He's like in the world. So I think VR is definitely a big bridge into our sort of experience, truly our experience. And that's what we talked about last week and the last couple of weeks is that commoditizing our minds and just like Elon and whoever else are commoditizing space for communications and now weapons. Everything is becoming commoditized. It's part of the days of Noah, I believe, and why creation is groaning, and why pretty much everything is destroyed when Jesus returns and judges, because I think everything's going to be messed up anyway. But yeah, no, I think spiritually it can be very, very detrimental if you're not, doing the right things. So, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the sharing of the dreams, and yeah, certainly I think people can relate to having strange moments and dreams like that. I know I've had dreams where I definitely had to call out to Jesus and things stopped right away. So I can relate to you there. I know there's a whole research department, CE4 research. I don't know if they're still doing stuff. I don't know if their website is still up, but they basically collected a whole bunch of testimonials of people who were able to stop quote unquote alien abductions by calling out in the name of Jesus and trying to stop that. So, and I've heard L.A. Marzulli say that it doesn't work anymore, and maybe it doesn't at certain levels, perhaps. But when it's just like a pure spiritual, like dream thing, I think you could, as long as you're right with God, I think it works. Not when they start doing physical things, though. That's when no matter how much you pray to Jesus in your mind if they're carrying your body out the front door. That's just, it is what it is there. So, but that also speaks to biblical prophecy about the end times and what happens to the saints. You go to Revelation 13, very uncomfortable. I always talk about it. It says that the beast and everybody, they conquer the saints. So, that's kind of what we should expect the world to head into, is where there's a fervor to conquer the saints one way or another. So, yeah, go for it, Davey. Apex Twin, like the band? The artist? Yeah. Yeah, it's old school. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm, interesting. I wonder if they could actually touch you or not. That's uh, oh my. I'm doing it again. I got to get used to having the two. I have two mute buttons. I have one in Spaces and I have one on my mixing board. So I get confused sometimes. But um, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that, because, and I'm curious if the entity was like, what would have happened if they did try to touch you? Like, could they actually touch you? Yeah, we talked about it last week. I think that it was there's a name for it. I forget what it was, a theta state or something like that. Yeah, I've seen that in my dreams. Like, I don't know why. I know people have talked about certain entities that they see, but for some reason, when when you're talking about that, I've definitely seen sort of that dark fear. It's weird because it's almost like a painting or something. It's the body's just kind of, the limbs just kind of exist, and it's a weird look. But I think Davey got kicked off the stage here. Are you back on stage here? Let's see. What's up? I think you dropped off there. Yep. Yeah, happens. Weird. Yeah. Yeah, and especially if and we talked about it last week or last couple weeks, if corporations are actively trying to infiltrate the dreams of the general public, uh, people are going to start having weird dreams. Like they just are, and everything that's shown to you while you're awake will be seeds to unleash in some kind of dream state, and that's probably happening already at various levels. So yeah, we talked about a little bit last week. How do we know it's God showing us something or not? And I would imagine some of those freaky moments, God is allowing that to happen as well for one reason or another. So, um, again, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but it's these discussions. I feel that we need a space to be able to discuss these things and be open about it because otherwise, everyone's just having crazy dreams. It's just a weird dream. Yeah, you just thought about Coors Light because, or you had a dream about Coors Light because, you were in the store, you were staring at the Coors Light bottle because it had some weird demonic thing on it. It's not because they're actively trying to infiltrate your dreams, so that kind of thing. But, yeah, I am interested in tying it all back to the whole space conversation, how much of the technology up there can really influence the way we think and the way we move and all that type of stuff. And I'm sure the dream stuff, it will be facilitated by the satellites and all that. So we know that there's already technology that exists that move in that direction. There's a lot of stuff they're spraying up there that may have some sort of future use in that regard. So let's see. Oh, interesting. I'm getting a note here that nobody on the YouTube feed has been able to hear any of the ex-guests on YouTube the whole time. Oh, no. That is horrible. That is terrible. I am sorry about that. I don't know why that would be. Let me see here. I'm planning to wrap it up now anyway. So I guess it was a lost cause on the live stream on all the video platforms. I apologize for that for the live viewers. If you hop into the RSS feed, you'll be able to hear the guests. Or if you're in the X Spaces, you were definitely able to hear the guests. So, bummer. Hold on. What did I do wrong here? Let me see. The thing is not muted, so I guess it was in StreamYard. Let me see here. Gotta do this. And again, we're kind of at the end of the show here, so I guess it's kind of pointless to do this right now, but let me see if I can fix it at the very least so people on YouTube and whatnot can at least hear people in the last few minutes. Oh, man. Share screen. Let's see. Audio. Yup. How about now? Hopefully people can hear now. But, it's kind of hard because I can't check necessarily. But, of course. Yeah. The swirliness. Yeah, we noticed that right at the beginning when they started releasing the AI art, that it had the swirls and it looked like what people described as a psychedelic experience and things of that nature. So yeah, we definitely caught that early on. I think we're going to have companies that offer experiences like that. I think they're already in the works to do stuff like that. A lot of movies, Vanilla Sky, all these films have depicted that type of situation where you're laying in bed in your disfigured form, but you're having this adventure in some virtual space that you think is real or something. Movies have explored it, and that they've explored it because they plan to have some kind of commercial product that will facilitate that. And I talked about it yesterday, and I've brought it up a few times over the last few weeks. But there was a big survey by YouGov, the UK, which does surveys all across the world. They did a big survey covering people 18 years and over, 17 different markets, which means, first world countries. And they found that about 20% average, about 1 in 5, would consider getting a microchip in their brain should such technology become commercial. So that's 1/5 already today in 2024 that would consider that. So, we're talking about something that I don't know that we're ready. Though, and India had 38%, which, if the numbers pan out, and again, these are smaller surveys, so you can't necessarily apply it to the entire population, but if it pans out, 38% that would consider getting a microchip, that's over 500 million people. That's more than the population of the United States. In India alone, that would consider getting a microchip in their brain if a commercial product becomes available. So 20 years from now, it might be half. It might be, half the world start microchipping their brains. And then we're really on a divergent course of people experiencing things that other people have no idea what they're talking about, And I can see the Dr. Hugo de Garis world unfold, this sort of art-elect war, where you have your cosmists, your Terrans, and your cyborgists. And the Terrans are those who believe that, hey, we're terra firma, the Earth, solid ground. We agree with the Earth, and we we would like to keep things that way. And I guess those would be sort of the Luddite types. And then you have your cyborgists, who are people who believe that we should merge with this technology and become cyborgs to save humanity. And then you have your cosmists, who believe not only that we should merge with it, but that we are building a godlike AI entity, and that once that is formed, then we can ascend with it. So it's a whole, the cosmist view of things. So this is a scenario, a thesis that was provided by a non-believer who studied reverse engineering the brain in China in like the 80s or something. He almost got, I think he almost got killed back then, because he started pushing back against what the Chinese government wanted to do with that research, and he was able to live but get kicked out or something. But he wrote a book called The Art-elect War. We interviewed him in 2014. Maybe I'll reach out to him. I think he's still around, so maybe we'll reach out to him and try to get him back on Canary Cry and catch up, because I think some of his warnings are we're seeing it form even more now. We're seeing it more and more, and especially with Trump being a Trojan horse for the technocracy. It's an interesting play. I think we got to be alert and aware of that situation, because it'll continue to unfold, and it'll continue to sweep a lot of people that are MAGA. It's going to disappoint them, really. I think ultimately it'll disappoint a lot of the people who are super MAGA right now, and I can understand their sentiment, because we're in a sort of an inflection point. Do you really want 4 years of Kamala Harris? If I had to choose Kamala Harris over Trump, do you want the woke technocracy, or do you want the conservative technocracy? That's kind of what we're left with as a choice. It's a technocracy nonetheless. So that is gonna happen regardless to some level, and pushing for 2030 and all that. So I'm gonna wrap up the spaces here. Thank you, everybody, for coming to hang out. Thank you to all the people who hopped on stage to share your thoughts. JC, thank you for sharing your dream. Davey, thank you for hopping up and talking. We've read the documents, was up here earlier. Everybody in the spaces, I appreciate it. I'm planning to do these every Tuesday. I've been pretty consistent for the last few weeks, so look out for that. And I apologize to everybody watching live on YouTube and Rumble and other places. I guess even on X. Technically, the live stream wasn't really working properly if the guests weren't audible. So bummer. I will make sure that doesn't happen again. But hopefully people were able to get a little bit out of at least my end of the conversation here on the live stream. If not, if you want to hear the whole thing, the RSS feed at Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk will definitely have the whole thing with the guests and everything. So, all right, I'm gonna shut it down here. Thank you, guys. I'll see you all next week. Well, actually, I'll see some of you tomorrow. Canary Cry News Talk, episode 762. We'll discuss some of the other things going on in the world and continue on. Keep marching forward, folks. Keep on that full armor of God. God bless. Stay watchful. And always remember to think outside the cage. Take care.